3 days before my dream wedding, I discovered that my maid of honor had been sleeping with my fiancé for 8 months. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was realizing she'd orchestrated our entire relationship from the beginning, manipulating both of us like pieces on a chessboard, all so she could steal the life she thought I didn't deserve. When I found the evidence, I had a choice: cancel the wedding and let 200 guests know I'd been humiliated, or turn my special day into the most epic revenge reveal in family history. I chose revenge. I'm Lucia Montrose, 29, a graphic designer in Austin, Texas, and what I did at my wedding altar will change how you think about trust, family, and justice forever. If you've ever wanted to see a cheater get completely destroyed in front of everyone they know, hit that like button, subscribe for more daily stories of revenge and justice, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from, because this story is about to get wild. Victoria Vicky Sterling was supposed to be my closest family. Our mothers were sisters, and we'd grown up like siblings after my parents died in a car accident when I was 12. Vicky's family took me in, and for 17 years, I thought of her as the sister I never had. Vicky was everything I wasn't: effortlessly beautiful, socially brilliant, the kind of person who walked into rooms and made them brighter. She had platinum blonde hair that never had a bad day, piercing blue eyes that photographers loved, and a laugh that made men turn their heads on the street. Growing up, I was the quiet, artsy one who lived in her shadow. But Vicky never made me feel less than. She'd drag me to parties where I'd hide in corners, introduce me to her friends, push me to put myself out there. When I got accepted to art school, she threw me a surprise party. When I landed my first big client as a freelance designer, she was the first person I called. We were inseparable through our 20s, living in the same Austin neighborhood, having weekly brunches, sharing everything. Vicky worked in medical device sales, traveling constantly but always making time for our friendship. She was my safe space, my chosen family, my person. So when I met Brendan Walsh at a gallery opening 18 months ago, of course I told Vicky everything. Brendan was a real estate developer, 6'2" with dark hair and the kind of confidence that made rooms pay attention. He was charming, successful, and seemed genuinely interested in my art. Our first date lasted 8 hours: dinner, drinks, walking through downtown Austin talking about everything and nothing. "He sounds perfect for you," Vicky said when I gushed about him the next day. "Smart, creative, stable. You deserve someone who sees how amazing you are." She was so supportive as our relationship developed. She double-dated with us, brought her rotating cast of boyfriends to group dinners, gave me relationship advice when Brendan and I hit rough patches. When he seemed distant, she'd analyze his behavior: "He's probably just stressed about work." Men withdraw when they're overwhelmed. When I worried I wasn't sophisticated enough for his business crowd, she'd reassure me: "Lucia, you're an artist. You bring something unique to his world that all those corporate wives don't have." 8 months in, when Brendan started traveling more for work and becoming less available, Vicky was my voice of reason. Long-distance relationships are hard, but if he's worth it, you make it work. Maybe plan some surprise visits to his project sites? She even helped me plan romantic gestures, surprise dinners when he returned from trips, thoughtful gifts for his work stress, a weekend getaway to San Antonio for our 1-year anniversary. Looking back, every piece of advice she gave me was designed to push me toward mistakes that would drive Brendan away. Last December, Brendan proposed on Christmas Eve in front of both our families. It was everything I'd dreamed of: intimate, romantic, surrounded by people we loved. Vicky cried harder than I did, throwing her arms around both of us. "I'm so happy for you," she sobbed. "You two are perfect together. I can't wait to be your maid of honor." Of course she'd be my maid of honor. She was my best friend, my sister in everything but blood. Planning the wedding became our shared obsession. Vicky helped me find the perfect venue, a historic mansion with gardens overlooking Town Lake. She came to every dress fitting, every cake tasting, every vendor meeting. She was incredibly involved, maybe more than necessary. She had opinions about everything: "The flowers, gardenias, are so much more elegant than roses. The menu, trust me, the beef tenderloin will photograph better than the chicken, even my wedding dress, the A-line silhouette is stunning, but are you sure it's not too plain? But I was grateful for her input. Wedding planning was overwhelming, and Vicky had impeccable taste. She worked in sales, so she was great at negotiating with vendors. She had connections through her work that saved us money on photography and catering. Most importantly, she kept me sane when wedding stress made me question everything. "Lucia, breathe," she'd say during my panic attacks about seating charts or centerpieces. "This day is about you and Brendan. Everything else is just details." 3 days before the wedding, I was at the venue doing a final walkthrough when I realized I'd left my phone in Vicky's car. She was meeting with the florist, so I used the venue coordinator's phone to call mine, hoping to hear it ring in her car. Instead, I heard it ringing from inside the bridal suite. I found my phone on the vanity, and the screen lit up with a text notification. The preview showed Brendan's name and the beginning of a message: "Can't wait to see you tonight, gorgeous. After this weekend." My blood turned to ice. Brendan was supposed to be in Dallas on a site visit. He wasn't supposed to be seeing anyone tonight, especially not someone he called gorgeous. My hands shook as I opened the message thread. What I found destroyed my entire world. Months of messages. Explicit photos. Plans to meet up while I was working late. Discussions about keeping Lucia in the dark just a little longer. The most recent exchange was from that morning. "Brendan, can't believe we're pulling this off. 3 more days of pretending." "Vicky, I know, baby. I almost feel bad for her." "Almost." Smirking face. "Brendan, she has no idea. You're incredible, Vic." This whole thing was genius. Vicky, had to make sure she picked the right guy, didn't I? Even if she won't get to keep him. Kiss mark. I scrolled back through months of messages, each one a knife twist. They'd been planning this. Not just the affair, the entire relationship. Vicky had met Brendan first, at a medical conference where his company was developing surgical centers. She'd introduced him to me deliberately, coaching him on what to say, how to act, what I'd find attractive. She'd been playing matchmaker while planning to steal him. The messages revealed everything: how she'd sabotaged my early dates by giving me bad advice, how she'd convinced Brendan I was too needy when I tried to be romantic, how she'd positioned herself as the cool girl alternative to my clinginess. "Vicky, she's getting suspicious about your work trips. Maybe dial back the frequency?" "Brendan, or we could just tell her. I'm getting tired of pretending to be interested in her art." "Vicky, not yet. Let her have the wedding. It'll be easier to transition afterward. Plus, watching her plan our day is kind of hilarious." Our day. She thought of my wedding as her wedding. I kept reading, my nausea growing with each message. They'd been intimate in my apartment while I was at work. They'd laughed about my amateur design skills compared to Vicky's sophisticated taste. Brendan had been planning to leave me after the honeymoon, claiming he needed space while moving in with Vicky. But the final message thread was what pushed me over the edge. "Brendan, what if she finds out before Saturday?" "Vicky, she won't. Lucci is not smart enough to put the pieces together. She never was. She's always been the lucky one, parents who left her money, talent that came easy, guys who liked her for no reason. She's never had to fight for anything. This time, she loses." "Brendan, you really hate her, don't you?" "Vicky, I've hated her since we were kids. Everyone always said how resilient she was after her parents died, how talented she was, how sweet. Nobody ever noticed that I was the one taking care of her, making sure she fit in, protecting her from the truth about what people really thought. She owes me everything, and she's never even noticed." The truth hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't just about stealing my fiancé. This was about 17 years of resentment, jealousy, and hatred disguised as love and support. I sat in that bridal suite for 2 hours, reading through their entire relationship, understanding how completely I'd been manipulated. Vicky had been playing a long game, positioning herself as my savior while systematically destroying my confidence and my relationships. But she'd made one crucial mistake: she'd underestimated me. By the time she returned from the florist meeting, I was composed. I'd screenshot every damning message and sent them to my personal email. I'd formulated a plan. "Hey. Sorry that took so long," Vicky breezed in, arms full of flower samples. The florist wanted to change the ribbon color at the last minute. Crisis averted, though. "How did the walkthrough go?" "Perfect," I said, smiling. "Everything looks exactly like we planned." She studied my face. "You seem calm. Usually you're a nervous wreck this close to the wedding." "I guess I've just accepted that whatever happens, happens. No point stressing about things I can't control." "That's so mature of you, Lucia." "See? I told you that you'd be fine." For the next 3 days, I played the role of stressed but excited bride. I attended my bachelorette party, planned by Vicky, of course, smiled through the rehearsal dinner, and acted completely normal. Meanwhile, I was preparing the most spectacular revenge in wedding history. Saturday arrived crisp and beautiful, with golden autumn light filtering through the mansion's windows. 200 guests filled the ceremony space: family, friends, colleagues, everyone who mattered to us. Vicky looked stunning in her dusty rose maid of honor dress, her platinum hair in an elaborate updo that had taken 2 hours at the salon. She fussed over my dress, my makeup, my nerves. "You look absolutely radiant," she said, squeezing my hands. "Brendan is so lucky." "We both are," I replied, meaning it in ways she couldn't imagine. The ceremony began perfectly. The string quartet played Canon in D as the wedding party processed down the aisle. Vicky walked ahead of me, beaming at the guests, blowing kisses at Brendan. Brendan stood at the altar in his charcoal gray tuxedo, looking every inch the perfect groom. When he saw me walking down the aisle, his face lit up with what I now knew was performance, not love. The officiant, Reverend Martinez, began the ceremony with the traditional opening. We'd reached the part where he asks if anyone objects to the marriage when I made my move. "Actually," I said, my voice carrying clearly through the microphone, "before we continue, I have something to share with everyone." Confused murmurs rippled through the audience. Brendan's smile faltered. Vicky's face went white. "Marriage is about trust," I continued, "and honesty. It's about knowing who someone really is before you promise to spend your life with them. So I thought everyone should know who Brendan and Vicky really are." I pulled out my phone and connected it to the venue's sound system, a feature I'd specifically requested during planning, claiming I wanted to play a special song during the ceremony. These are text messages between my fiancé and my maid of honor, spanning the last 8 months. Vicky started to move toward me, but the groomsmen, my male cousins who I'd briefed beforehand, stepped in front of her. I began reading their messages aloud, starting with the most recent and working backward. The explicit messages. The plans to meet up. The discussions about leaving me after the honeymoon. The audience gasped, whispered, shifted uncomfortably. Some people pulled out their phones to record. Brendan stood frozen at the altar, his face cycling through shock, panic, and rage. But I wasn't done. "The affair is bad enough," I said, "but what you're about to hear shows this was never about love. This was about revenge." I read Vicky's messages about hating me since childhood, about feeling like I'd gotten everything she deserved, about manipulating our entire relationship so she could take what she thought was rightfully hers. By the time I finished, Vicky was sobbing, Brendan was shouting denials, and the audience was in complete chaos. Half the guests were on their feet, some trying to leave, others pushing forward to confront the guilty parties. "The wedding is cancelled," I announced. "But please stay for the reception. The food is paid for, and I think we could all use a drink." The video went viral within hours. Someone had live-streamed the ceremony on social media, and "wedding revenge reveal" became a trending topic. News outlets picked up the story. I got interview requests from talk shows. But the real satisfaction was watching Vicky's life implode. Her medical device company fired her within 48 hours of the video surfacing. Apparently, professional conduct standards included not being a sociopathic manipulator. Brendan's real estate firm dropped him as a partner after clients started canceling contracts, not wanting to work with someone so publicly untrustworthy. The family fallout was swift and brutal. Vicky's parents, my aunt and uncle who'd raised me, were devastated. They'd seen the messages about her hatred for me, her resentment of the care they'd given me after my parents died. We had no idea, my aunt sobbed when she called me. Lucia, we're so sorry. We thought she loved you like a sister. So did I replied. Vicky tried to reach out multiple times, tearful voicemails, long letters, messages through mutual friends. She claimed she was sick and needed help, that her jealousy had consumed her but she was getting therapy. I blocked her everywhere. Brendan's attempts at reconciliation were even more pathetic. He showed up at my apartment claiming Vicky had seduced him, that he'd always loved me but had been confused by her manipulation. We can work through this, he pleaded. What we had was real, Lucia. Don't let her destroy that. I laughed in his face. What we had was a lie. Every moment, every conversation, every time you said you loved me, it was all performance. Get off my property before I call the police. The months after the wedding were challenging but liberating. I had to process not just the betrayal, but the realization that my closest relationship had been built on deception and hatred. Therapy helped. Dr. Elena Rodriguez specialized in family trauma and helped me understand how Vicky's long-term manipulation had affected my self-perception and ability to trust. She was grooming you, Dr. Rodriguez explained. Making you dependent on her validation while systematically undermining your confidence. It's a form of psychological abuse. Understanding the manipulation helped me forgive myself for missing the signs. I'd been conditioned from age 12 to see Vicky as my protector and guide. Of course I'd trusted her advice about relationships. My art flourished in ways it hadn't in years. The emotional intensity of the betrayal and revenge fueled a creative explosion. I painted furiously, channeling rage and grief and triumph into canvases that felt more honest than anything I'd created before. The viral wedding video brought unexpected opportunities. A gallery in Los Angeles wanted to show my new work in an exhibition called Truth and Transformation. A publisher approached me about writing a book about family manipulation and recovery. Most surprisingly, I found love again, real love, this time. I met Nathaniel Brooks at a coffee shop 8 months after the wedding disaster. He was a music teacher, quiet and thoughtful, with kind eyes and hands that were always slightly stained with guitar chalk. He recognized me from the viral video but didn't mention it until our third date. I have to ask, he said over dinner, are you the wedding revenge woman from social media? I braced myself for judgment or sensationalism. Yeah, that's me. He nodded thoughtfully. Good for you. That took incredible strength. I can't imagine discovering that level of betrayal and having the presence of mind to expose it so effectively. You don't think it was cruel? A lot of people online said I was too harsh. Cruel? He looked genuinely shocked. They stole 2 years of your life, planned to humiliate you after taking your money for a fake wedding, and you're worried about being cruel? You protected yourself and probably saved other people from being manipulated by them. That's not cruel, that's heroic. His perspective helped me see my actions clearly. I hadn't been petty or vindictive, I'd been strategic and self-protective. We took things slowly, building trust carefully. Nathaniel was patient with my hypervigilance about deception, my need to verify feelings and intentions, my difficulty believing someone could love me without an ulterior motive. Trust isn't binary, he told me one evening as we walked through Zilker Park. It's not something you either have or don't have. It's something you build, day by day, through consistent actions. I'm willing to earn yours however long it takes. A year and a half after my revenge wedding, Nathaniel proposed, quietly, privately, on a hiking trail overlooking the hill country. No cameras, no audience, just us and the sunset and a simple, perfect ring. this time I planned my wedding differently. Smaller guest list, people I truly trusted. No maid of honor, just my 2 college roommates as bridesmaids, women who'd proven their loyalty over years of ordinary moments, not grand gestures. The ceremony was everything my first wedding hadn't been: genuine, intimate, focused on commitment rather than performance. When Nathaniel and I exchanged vows, every word was true. My aunt and uncle came, still rebuilding their relationship with me after Vicky's betrayal. They'd cut contact with her entirely after seeing the full extent of her manipulation, something that couldn't have been easy after raising her for 29 years. "We're proud of how you handled everything," my uncle told me at the reception. "It would have been easy to let her cruelty make you cruel too. Instead, you got stronger." 3 years after the revenge wedding, I'm living a life Vicky could never have anticipated. My art career has taken off beyond my wildest dreams. The Los Angeles exhibition led to commissions, gallery representation, and a waiting list for my paintings. Nathaniel and I bought a house with a converted garage studio where I paint every day. We adopted 2 rescue dogs who sleep at my feet while I work. It's a quiet, happy life built on honesty and mutual respect. I still get messages about the wedding video, which resurfaces periodically on social media. Most people are supportive, but some critics call me vindictive or say I should have handled it privately. I understand their perspective, but I don't regret my choice. Vicky and Brendan were counting on my silence, my desire to avoid confrontation, my willingness to absorb pain privately rather than expose them publicly. They were counting on the same conditioning that had let them manipulate me for months. By exposing them publicly, I not only protected myself, I protected their future victims. Brendan's ex-girlfriends reached out after the video went viral, sharing stories of similar manipulation. Vicky's former coworkers described her patterns of undermining colleagues she saw as competition. Last month, I received a letter from Vicky. 3 years of silence, and suddenly she was reaching out again. The letter was different from her previous attempts at contact: no dramatic apologies or claims of illness. Instead, it was a straightforward acknowledgement of what she'd done and why. "Lucia," she wrote, "I've spent 3 years in therapy trying to understand why I hated you so much when you never did anything to deserve it. My therapist says it was about my own inadequacy, my fear that I wasn't enough, my need to tear down someone I perceived as having what I wanted. She's right, but that's not the whole truth. The whole truth is that I resented you for surviving our parents' death with more grace than I thought I could manage. I resented you for being grateful for my family's help instead of entitled to it. I resented you for being genuinely kind when I had to work so hard to appear kind. I wanted to be you, but I also wanted to prove you didn't deserve the life you had. Both impulses made me cruel in ways I'm still trying to understand. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm just acknowledging the truth of what I did and why. You deserved better from someone you trusted as family." I read the letter twice, then put it in a drawer. It was honest in a way her previous attempts hadn't been, but honesty doesn't erase damage. Understanding her motives doesn't make me trust her. Maybe someday I'll be ready for reconciliation. Maybe not. Either way is fine. People often ask if I regret the public nature of my revenge. Whether I wish I'd handled it more quietly, more maturely. The answer is no. Vicky spent 17 years playing a long game of manipulation, convinced that I was too naive and grateful to ever see through her act. She was counting on my silence, my desire to preserve family harmony, my tendency to absorb pain privately rather than make waves. By exposing her publicly, I broke the pattern. I refused to be the accommodating victim she expected me to be. More importantly, I showed other people that it's okay to defend yourself, even against family. Especially against family. Blood relations don't excuse cruelty or manipulation. Love doesn't require accepting abuse. The viral video brought me messages from hundreds of people sharing similar stories: siblings who'd stolen from them, parents who'd sabotaged their relationships, cousins who'd spread lies to destroy their reputations. Many had stayed silent to keep the peace, allowing the abuse to continue. Watching you stand up for yourself gave me permission to do the same, one woman wrote. I finally confronted my sister about the lies she'd been telling about me for years. Our family was angry at first, but now they see who she really is. That's worth more than any criticism about my methods. Today, I'm 32 and married to a man who sees my strength as beautiful rather than threatening. My art hangs in galleries across the country. I have friends who've proven their loyalty through years of ordinary moments, not grand gestures. I have a life built on truth rather than performance, trust rather than manipulation, love rather than strategy. Vicky wanted to prove I didn't deserve the life I had. Instead, she pushed me to build a life that's infinitely better than the one she tried to steal. Some people see my story as one of betrayal and revenge. I prefer to see it as one of recognition and liberation. Vicky showed me who she really was, and I chose to believe her. Then I chose to build something better. The wedding video still gets shared, usually with captions about savage brides or ultimate revenge. But for me, it represents something simpler, the moment I stopped letting other people write my story and started writing it myself. That's a choice I make every day, and it's led me to a life more beautiful than anything Vicky could have imagined or destroyed.